Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the, what is this, April 1st, Salisbury City Council work session. Before we begin tonight, I have an announcement. One of us at this front table, and it's not April, me, or Angela, or Kim, is having a birthday. So we would like to wish Mr. Boda a
36, yeah.
times two? No.
That's your
Okay.
birthday.
That's my birthday. Well, happy birthday,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Boda.
Should we sing?
Appreciate it. No, I don't think so, because Jack
Start howling.
will start
Yeah.
howling. Not this Jack, Jack the dog.
Oh.
Jack the service dog. Okay, we have a pretty abbreviated agenda tonight. So let's start off with a resolution in opposition of offshore drilling, Amanda Pollock and a cast of thousands.
Good afternoon and
Good
happy
afternoon.
birthday.
Thank you.
With me today is Matthew Heim. He's on the City's Sustainability Advisory Committee, and he also works for Oceana. So
Welcome.
Thank you.
the Department of Infrastructure and Development is the staff support group for the Sustainability Advisory Committee. And back in December, we heard a presentation that Matt did about offshore drilling and seismic testing. And the Sustainability Advisory Committee, also known as the Green Team, established a subcommittee to work on a resolution in opposition to offshore drilling because of the impacts that it has to the natural habitat in the area and other things they can do actually on shore. And Matthew can speak to that a little bit more. So we've gone through the process of vetting this resolution, and the committee voted last month to forward it to the mayor and council. We have other members of our green team here with us today for support and any questions, but I wanted to give Matthew a chance to speak on it.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me, and I want to thank the support of the Green Team for helping to draft this resolution and forward it on. To give you a little bit of background and context, what's being proposed right now, the Trump administration is proposing opening the entirety of the Atlantic Ocean to offshore drilling and exploration for oil and gas, including areas off of the Delmarva Peninsula and areas near the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. Oceana, along with a number of other local partners, are working to try to prevent this from happening due to the potential ecological damage that could come from offshore drilling due to spills. Also, the exploratory process that comes along with it represents a serious ecological threat. Exploration processes for oil and gas employ a tool called a seismic air gun, which emits one of the loudest man-made sounds on Earth. It goes off every 10 seconds or so, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the duration of mapping exercises. Currently, there's 5 companies planning to conduct surveys off of the mid-Atlantic coast. All 5 of those surveys overlap because the surveys are proprietary, which means the same area of the ocean can be mapped multiple times. This is obviously a concern due to the noise to whales and dolphins, marine mammals, but also fish species and invertebrate species, particularly the Chesapeake Bay blue crab, which spends a considerable part of its juvenile life in the open Atlantic, and studies have shown that the use of seismic airgun surveys has led to increased mortality rate in zooplankton, which would include Maryland blue crab larvae floating around in the Atlantic. So Oceana, along with our partners, we're working to try to prevent this from moving forward. And what's been the bedrock of our campaign is working with local municipalities like Salisbury to pass resolutions saying we don't want to see drilling off of our coast, and we think that's a bad idea. We have secured resolutions from several Maryland jurisdictions along the coast. We have overwhelming support from the City of Ocean City. Worcester County has passed a resolution. Berlin, Maryland, the Ocean Pines Chamber of Commerce, Greater Ocean City Chamber of Commerce, Crisfield, Maryland's passed a resolution. St. Mary's County, Annapolis, Baltimore. Harvard of Grace is working on a resolution. I presented to Herlock last week. We've got a pretty substantial body of folks that are weighing in. One of the big reasons I'm coming to the city of Salisbury is, one, the connection to the river. This is also an area where I grew up, and so I have ties, and I'd love to see my hometown pass a resolution. But most importantly, strategically, Representative Andy Harris is a coastal Republican. has close ties to the administration. He has expressed opposition to drilling off of Maryland's coast. I've had conversations with his staff, and there are indications that he would like to take a broader stance in opposing drilling both off the coasts of Virginia and North Carolina, as those present a threat to the Chesapeake Bay. And he needs some help in taking that stance in opposition to the Trump administration's plans. And so we're trying to work with communities in the 1st District to pass resolutions so that he can turn and say that this is something that his coastal constituents and his constituents in his district does not want. So that's a little bit of background and context why this resolution is important. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have too.
Questions? I just have a couple. What's the normal, typical length of time for mapping?
So the mapping, I wish I had my stats in front of me. We are anticipating that this mapping will, can I get back to you with the exact figures? The mapping figures.
Yeah. But is it, you're talking about weeks?
Yeah, weeks. We're talking about months. Over.
Months.
Yeah, it's several weeks.
Okay.
We're probably talking in the term each mapping exercise, it would be 6 to approximately 8 weeks. And we actually have, Oceana has compiled the exact number of days. We took a look at all of the permits, and we have a number of days. It's in the hundreds of days of mapping experiences, exercises that will be going on, some of them simultaneously in the same body of water, which would amplify the effects.
Just out of curiosity, I think we know what Ocean City's stance is on wind, which is an alternative.
Right.
How many people have supported the wind project in the same kind of municipalities that you've talked to?
In municipalities passing resolutions,
Yeah.
along the coast, it's a little bit contentious. I get questions about offshore wind a lot. It seems that the inland communities are generally more in favor of offshore wind than the coastal communities due to concerns about tourism and things like that. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. I used to work for a Dutch company, and Dutch have no problem, and they have no problem with their tourism either.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think that's certainly from my perspective, renewable energy is something we really have to.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
really have to focus on. Any other questions or comments? Do we have consensus to move it forward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matt, thanks for your input.
Yep, no problem.
Amanda, you're still here?
I am.
We're, wait, before we do that, this way you can get a break and get
Okay.
everybody up here. Ms. Glanz has a proclamation to make.
Thank you, and I know it's a little out of order as work sessions don't usually have proclamations, but this week is American Poets Week and American Poetry Month, and we have an exciting announcement coming Thursday. We'll be announcing Salisbury's first ever Poet Laureate. So I would like to read a short proclamation if that is okay. Whereas the Academy of American Poets in 1996 established the month-long National Poetry Month and has grown to its largest literary celebration in the world. And whereas National Poetry Month seeks to highlight the extraordinary legacy and ongoing achievement of American poets, introduce Americans to the pleasures and benefits of reading poetry, bring poets and poetry to the public in immediate and innovative ways, and make poetry an important part of children's education. And whereas the Eastern Shore Voices is presenting Salisbury Poetry Week from April 1 through 7, 2019 in observance of National Poetry Month, and whereas events will feature not only celebrated author and creative writing Jane Satterfield, who will share her work of poetry through a series of guided public workshops, readings, and events, and whereas community educational institutions, including Wicomico Board of Education, Wicomico County Library, Warwick Community College, and Salisbury University are in full support of Poetry Week. And whereas Salisbury is a culturally diverse city and shares experiences through poetry, and all the arts have inherited potential to foster community spirit and pride. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of our Mayor Jacob Bardet, do hereby proclaim April 1 through 7 Salisbury Poetry Week. So this Thursday from 7 to 9 in SU's Commons and the Worcester Room is Jane Satterfield, Eastern Shore Voices poetry reading. And at that event, we will be announcing our winner of the Salisbury Poet Laureate, our first ever. So we're really excited about that. Chris, you know how many folks applied for that?
There were about a dozen applicants.
Okay.
And 3 folks were selected as finalists. They have been notified. There will be making the final announcement on Thursday night.
Yeah, so our 3 finalists are Adam Tavel, Pamela Ward, and Nancy Mitchell. So congratulations to those folks. There was a great representation of work in there, and really excited what hopefully all these folks will, but certainly our Poet Laureate will do in the coming 2 years to invigorate this community and get folks interested in poetry that might not think that it's something they're into. So I know I wrote a poem that I'm quite proud of in college that I'm trying to dig up. So I won't talk about the specifics of it, but when I find it, I will read it here for you all. So thank you.
May we get a picture with the proclamation?
Sure.
The city flag.
Sure. Yes. I am a little disappointed that you did not present it in iambic pentameter.
The city flag.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Ready, everyone? On 3. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up on the agenda is a resolution to adopt Vision Zero, which we heard a little bit about
Yes.
last week?
Last time,
before-
yeah,
last
2
time.
weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So let's get into it.
Okay, so we introduced the topic 2 weeks ago. We wanted to give you time to think about it and understand it and come back with any questions. And this initial resolution adopts Vision Zero as the city's traffic and engineering design standards, essentially. And then it establishes a task force that we will then work with and lists the different organizations that the task force members may come from. The most important things is that this is establishing the goal of trying to end traffic fatalities and serious injuries by January 1st, 2030. So essentially giving us a little bit over 10 years. And to have a Vision Zero action plan by next July 1st, 2020. So giving us just over a year to come back with the first action plan and have it adopted by then. And then that we would have annual progress reports due to council every year in July. And so the way we phrase that is, of course, this is an initiative that would be managed by the Department of Infrastructure and Development, so we're responsible for that action plan. We'll rely on the task force to help us prepare that and to give us recommendations. So specific items that we talked about last time, like speed limit reductions and eliminating free right turns, those would be incorporated in the plan and would get specific recommendations from the task force, which, as you can see the list, in addition to infrastructure and development and the mayor's office, it would include field ops, police and fire, Department of Information Services for the GIS tracking, housing and community development, some of our committees such as the Traffic and Safety Advisory Committee, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and then the various branches of the Maryland Department of Transportation, both the State Highway Administration and the Highway Safety Office, State Police, the Sheriff's Office, Salisbury University, and then we'd like to invite a representative from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we made it flexible so that members may consist of those departments. We don't know that we'll get everybody at every meeting, but we wanted to make it a task force so that they could come and could be a part of it.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I think it's a great step forward in focusing on this.
I agree. And I think we've started to see some of the changes already, which have really made a difference.
Yes, yeah,
You can
especially
tell
around
by
the
the
city
speed
park.
of coming, around the
Yes.
park.
Yes.
Those really hard, fast turns have sort of ceased,
Yes, good.
which is good. One of the things that I thought I saw in there, didn't we talk about, you guys were gonna organize or there was a suggestion to combine the bicycle pedestrian and,
That's what I had suggested.
Right?
Yeah.
is that still a possibility? So okay, good.
I think it's a possibility, but at this point, I wanted to pass this with the committees that were in place.
Right,
You
so
know,
that
but-
changes,
Exactly, and changes could
Good.
happen.
good. That's quite a group.
Yes, it is.
To get something.
It would be great if we could get someone from each one of these organizations, but we'll see. I mean, we'll reach out to people personally and
Good.
we'll set agendas. And we're gonna draft, Will's already actually started drafting the action plan, so we'll have something for people to respond to, which tends to work better.
Good, okay. No other questions? We have consensus to move forward?
Yes. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Couple of other items, just for public knowledge. April the 4th, this Thursday, there's a Eastern Shore Drive Task Force meeting at
SU.
SU. And we are going to have a presentation from a consultant with recommendations as to what to do with it. And I know that, because I stopped by almost every business on Eastern Shore Drive from my house to Carroll Street, and they've gotten invitations to come, and a lot of them plan to be there, which is good. But it is open to the public. So if anybody wants to make comments, feel free to do that.
And
What
it'll
time
be,
is it?
it's at 10 o'clock on Thursday. I'm not sure of the exact location, but it's upstairs above the Commons Dining Hall in one of those conference rooms upstairs.
Yeah, it's upstairs. It's either going to be like Worcester
Worcester and
or the other one. I forget what the other one is, but it's on the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
10 o'clock on Thursday. Anything else? Oh, yes, there's and then Mr. Ireton had asked if we could bring the results of that, since he can't make it, if we could have on the agenda for the work session. So when we do the work session agenda, maybe we can put that on. So just to give a summary of what the recommendations are for those who can't make it on Thursday. Okay? Anything else for the good of the order?
Yes,
Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I will, I'm speaking on behalf of the National League of Cities and wondering why Salisbury is not a part of the National League of Cities anymore. I think it's a very interesting conference from what I've heard from some fellow members of some cities who are politicians and city officials. And they were telling me what an awesome time it was there and how they learned a lot about different aspects of our city growing. And they even went to, well, last year they went to California and they went to Watts, and how they were taught how to redevelop their city, especially in the low-lying poverty areas. So I just want to know why we're not registered for the National League of Cities and if we could be.
Well, I can answer part of it.
I can answer the other part, maybe. And I'll answer the other part, maybe.
Okay. We really, first of all, just, what's the cost? The cost is $8,000, I think? I think it's around $8,000. And since I've been on the council, no one has ever gone to any of the National League of Cities things, and we really have gotten very little benefit from it. So rather than pay the $8,000, that's why we dropped it. You can speak.
Yeah, echo the same thing, with looking at all of the associations that we're a part of, MML being the biggest chunk that we pay, which hurts, but they do good work. Just cost benefit, and nobody was going. I think we could certainly, if somebody wanted to go, I'm sure there's probably a higher conference cost rate, but not paying the membership might make sense. To pay a little bit more for the registration of the event, if that's something that council was interested in attending. And certainly now's the time to talk about it as we share the budget proposal with you in the coming weeks.
And I think that was part of the other issue is going to the conferences where it's a little more bearable for us to go locally to MML's conference, but some of these, like you said, are out in California.
Yeah, Pocomo can go, I know, that on well Salisbury can go. Pocomo goes.
Yeah, I know, you know, the one councilman you're talking about, and, you know, and we had, because he and I had met with the guy from National League of
National
Cities.
League, I had too,
and-
at the last MML.
And I explained to him, you know, pretty much what the council president had said, that it was a budgetary decision, and that, you know, we're more involved in MML, which is, for us, you know, we're more locally, the state level affects us the most, and that's where we focus most of our attention on, you know, so.
I think if there's interest, let me know and then what we'll do is, I think that the way to do this, because, as Mr. Boda said, sometimes it's in Washington DC, which is not an
Yeah.
issue.
They just had one in
Sometimes it's in
Washington.
California, which
Yeah.
will cost you a couple grand. So I think that if you have an interest and you would like to attend, I think Ms. Glanz's
Well, I
idea
am
about.
interested in attending, and if I were to go and didn't find, like I do the MML, if I found out that it wasn't beneficial, then I would say, okay, let's not do this again. You know, I would be, you know, more conservative to say that, but just give someone the opportunity to go to see if it would be beneficial.
Well, I think that we can probably cover it in the travel expense budget. If do we have any room in it? Well, we'll have to see, depending on what they give us. But let's discuss it during
Okay.
the budget
You're
sessions,
right.
okay? Okay.
Too, in the meantime,
Okay,
see if
thank
they
you.
have some rates for
Okay.
non-members.
Thank
and
you.
How much that is. The coffee tomorrow night.
This is tomorrow night, isn't it?
Talking with your council.
Coffee with the council.
Yes.
That's my next announcement. Coffee with the Council is on Tuesday evening at Bethany Lutheran on Camden Avenue. We encourage everyone who would like to be heard. This is your meeting. This is not our meeting, and we'd be happy to answer questions and respond to concerns. And it's a good opportunity to get to know us away from this formal atmosphere here. Okay?
I have
Okay.
Anything else?
I have one
Go
thing.
ahead.
And I'm sure that they're going to come in the next week or two, but April 25th, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the Light of Literacy Awards, which is a fundraiser for the library. You can purchase your tickets at the library downtown. They're $20. It's going to be at the Civic Center.
And that's a big event, usually very well attended. So get your tickets early. Anything else?
I have an announcement.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Courtney. I'm a freelance journalist for Salisbury University, and I'm writing an article about the Vision Zero. If anyone would like an interview, answer about 2 or 3 questions for me, I would love that.
Okay, after the meeting, I think we'll be able to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. If there's no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.